Welcome back to the Photobooth podcast. I'm Catalina, owner of Modern Activations, Modern Photobooth, and Photobooth Mastery, and I operate out of Canada. I'm joined here with Nicole from Own Your Moment Booth and Own Your Moment Co. in Florida. Now today, guys, I want to paint a picture for you. Let's say you've hired your first booth attendant. You're still working in your business instead of on your business. And in today's episode, we're talking to none other than Cameron Herold, the author of Second in Command and Vivid Vision, and so many other books that you should definitely read. He's the former CEO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, which he took from $2 million to $106 million. So Cameron, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Of course, Catalina. Thank you so much for having me. Nicole, good to see you both. Thank you.
Great. So I have so many questions for you. I'm going to start this off so that this really resonates with our listeners because, as I've mentioned, we have so many amazing photo booth owners, and they generally tend to start their business and then it grows really fast. And we've all been there where we get to a point where we're really tired. So Can you explain to us your concept of second in command?
Well, I want to flip this for a second. Instead of jumping right into the second in command, I want to talk about the reason that we all started a business. Because I started my first company when I was 20 years old. I had 12 full-time employees when I was in second year university. So I've really been an entrepreneur my entire life. And I can speak to anyone who's doing this as a side hustle or as a small business or even growing it into something that's becoming, real. We only start a company for one of three reasons. The first is to give us money, right? And at some point, we've created a business that is a good machine and it's giving us a good amount of cash, or it's giving us a ton of cash, or it's giving us some good extra cash. But that's one reason, is to give us money. The second is that feeling of accomplishment, to feel like we're doing something, to feel like we're contributing, to feel like we're adding value, to feel like we're showing up day to day and we're doing something, meaningful, maybe in our home or that we can talk to our friends about, or something that we can feel good about. It's that kind of accomplishment. And once you've got your business up and growing, you've accomplished it, right? It's up, it's going, it's running, so you can kind of check that box. The third reason is to give us free time. And this is where most entrepreneurs, or most of the people kind of doing this side hustle, running a business, fail, is they forget that a business should give you freedom. It should actually give you some free time, and you should be able to delegate everything except genius and hire people to do the stuff that drains you of energy. So when you start your own company, you are your own boss, but you're also reporting to someone. You're reporting to yourself. So make sure that you like the person that you're reporting to, right? Make sure that you like the stuff that you're doing. Like, no one is telling you to do all the stuff that's in your business. And nowadays we can outsource everything except genius. You can get freelancers and fractional people from all over the world to work on the admin and the miscellaneous parts of the business. You can even get people in your local city to show up with your photo booth and run the install and actually do kind of the connection with people's, and maybe you only make a fraction of that fee that you're charging for the event, but instead of showing up, you give yourself a free time and you get a little bit of cash and a lot more free time. So one of the biggest lessons I ever learned from my very first company, I'll answer your question about the second in command in a second, but one of the biggest lessons I ever learned from my first company when I was 20 years old was I was painting houses, right? We started a business to paint houses. I was in Sudbury, Canada, and I had 12 students painting houses for me, and I realized that every person painting was making me $3.52 an hour. So if I had 12 people out painting houses, I was making approximately $40 an hour. This was 30 years ago, 35 years ago. That was a lot of money back then. But for every hour that they worked, I was making that money. Now, yes, I could have shown up and climbed up a ladder and painted every house, but I wanted to have a life. I wanted to play golf. I wanted to go windsurfing. I wanted to hang out with friends. I wanted to work on the other parts of the business that fired me up. And frankly, I wanted to work on the parts of the business that needed a better skill set. So I delegated all the grunt work. And even though I ran a house painting company, I've never actually painted an entire home, not one. And I did millions of dollars of house painting without ever actually painting the house. So just because you're running the photo booth business doesn't mean you have to do everything in the business. So hiring the second in command part, it definitely, if you're in an early stage business, a small business, a side hustle company, your second in command is not going to be a COO. It might be an operations person, it might be an executive assistant, it might be a salesperson. It's someone that you can offload stuff to that drains you of energy, is below your effective hourly rate, and the stuff that you're just really not good at, right? So you suck at it, it drains you of energy, or it's below your effective hourly rate. So let's say that in your photo booth business, you're making $100,000 a year in terms of revenue. That means your effective hourly rate is $50 an hour. It's $50 an hour times 40 hours a week times 52 weeks a year adds up to about 100,000. If you're making, let's say, $50,000 net, that's $25 an hour. That means any task that you're doing that is a minimum wage job, you should hire someone to do that because you have enough margin to pay for all of that. It's a bit of a long answer, but that's my starting point.
No, that's perfect, because I think, as a photo booth owner, when you're scaling...
And by the way, I'm drinking water out of a wine glass right now, so if you're watching right now, I'm in Italy, but this is definitely water. I haven't had a drink in almost 11 months.
Fancy, yeah, I love it.
I was going to say it's very clear wine, but
Yeah.
a lot of times we don't, when you're scaling your business, you don't think about being able to hire someone, right? Attendants are very much a thing for photo booth owners, and we're very good at hiring people to go physically do the events. But we're not really good in terms of thinking of who else to hire. I know for me, hiring a sales team was one of my best things ever, a designer as well. While I love doing some of those things, they take up too much time and don't allow me to do the other things that I'm really good at, like the creativity part of things. So no, that's really great. I love that explanation that you gave. It gives people a lot to think about when it comes to hiring.
What would you say for photo booth owners who are kind of just getting started? What would you say are some of the things they need to think about when hiring?
Well, the first one is do you like the person, right? Regardless of what the role is, do you like them? Can you work with them? Don't hire someone who's really good at it, but in that interview process, they drive you crazy, or you're worried about them, or you don't like that energy, because you're going to be working with this person. So you have to kind of vibe with them, right? I've always said, if I'm not going to invite them to my home for dinner, I certainly don't want them to actually work with me. So it has to be somebody that you have some kind of a connection energy-wise with. That's number one. Number two is make sure that they're in alignment with your core values. And you really want to interview for that core values component, because that's really important. And then third is, do they have the skills to do what you need them to do? Not that they know how to do it, but have they done it before? There's a lot of really smart people who have read lots of great books and they come in with a ton of energy, but they've never done the work. I would always err on the side of the person that's done the work before, and they fit me culturally and they fit my core values.
Yeah,
that's great.
Actually a great point. You got to love the people you work with, because you definitely see them every day. I'm curious though, what would you say to someone who says that they can't afford to hire someone right now? Like maybe they're just at that cusp where they know they need to, but they can't remove any of the profit from themselves because that's their livelihood. Is there anything that you could say to them to change that mindset?
Well, the first part is, remember that, let's say that you're hiring someone for the year. Let's say that you're hiring a $60,000 person for the year. It's not upfront. You don't have to come up with $60,000. That's spread out over 12 months. So it's actually $5,000 a month. And that $5,000 a month isn't right now. It's spread over 4 weeks. So it's really $1,250 a week. And that's not even all up front. It's like $250 a day. It's really like, you can kind of break that down, right? So for $250 a day, it's about $30 an hour. It's almost irresponsible to not find enough work that somebody for $30 an hour can do. So if you need a full-time person, remember that you're spreading out the cost over the course of a year, and they're going to be able to do enough work that maybe you pay them $60,000, but they earn you $80,000 or $90,000. Now you make $30,000, but you have the freedom of 40 hours a week. Kind of worth it to me, right? If I could make a little bit of extra cash and not do a lot of the work, that might be okay. So think about it that way. Number two, you don't always need full-time people to do the job. Maybe you only need them 4 hours a week or 8 hours a week, and then all of a sudden it becomes very, very advantageous to bring that person on board. Number three is you can also hire an awful lot of people globally at a fraction of what you hire them for today. So off of any of like the fractional EA sites or Odesk or Hire My Mom, there's all kinds of places where you can actually hire freelance people. I would be looking to those places so you can actually hire somebody for a fraction of what you would hire somebody based in North America.
I've never heard of Hire My Mom.
I know, that's really cool. I love that. I love where you talked about your genius, because that's so true. Like you can't replace that and you can't, replicate that. But One thing I love too is like Catalina is obviously a 7-figure business. She runs an empire in Canada, and I'm kind of just starting. She's been doing it for 10 years. I'm in my 2nd year. And so I'm really kind of getting into this mode of hiring now. I have people who run my events for me, who are my photo booth attendants, but now I'm looking at the EA who can offload some of that email tasks for me that really I'd never understood or really took into account how much it was taking from my creativity for my business. And so that's definitely something that I'm looking at now, is someone to offload some of that sales, email, all those kinds of things. Is that kind of like the right route to go, would you say, for those who are in the similar position as me?
Yeah, you want to start delegating everything except genius, right? You want to get the stuff off your plate that drains you of energy, you're not great at, really doesn't maybe take a whole lot of skill set to work on. Those are really good things to start with in terms of getting those things off your plate. At the end of the day, as the entrepreneur, as the CEO, or as even the freelancer, the person who's doing the hustle, you really have to think about what parts of the business are going to fill you with energy so that you can show up day to day with that renewed energy, right? You can show up day to day and you can kind of bring it all, because the more good energy that you have in that day-to-day job, the more that you're actually going to be able to carry that forward in all the other tasks. And if you're ever working on any part of the business that is draining you of energy, you're bringing that drained energy into the rest of your day, and it's just not worth it at that point.
Oof, that's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, I got rid of accounting as much as I could, which was the best
for
thing
sure, right?
I could ever. Like, I hate it. It literally ruins my day when I see that block in my calendar that says accounting day. I don't know why. It usually takes me 5 minutes now, but it's still to this day is my dreaded block of time in my calendar. I know that like when I was going through building, my business, same thing. I hired attendants, I hired office staff, designers, that kind of stuff. Now I have 8 full-time employees that run pretty much everything. So I'm working only 3 to 4 hours a day on the actual business. But one of the things that I've always said to myself is, I wish I could clone myself so that I could just leave it all, right? And then just really only pop in when I want to and, focus on maybe building out some other things.
Well,
but I know you have an interesting thought on that.
Yeah, and you actually can clone yourself, because what you're talking about is cloning the results that you get, not the way that you do it. So one of the modules, I have launched a course a couple of years ago that everyone should take a look at. It's called Invest in Your Leaders, and it's me teaching all of the 12 modules, and it's the core stuff to grow any company. So it's stuff around situational leadership and coaching and delegation, time management, project management, etc. 12 core modules. When you actually learn how to delegate projects to a freelancer, to a contractor, to a full-time employee, when you learn how to coach them, when you learn how to manage projects, when you learn how to handle conflict, you can get a lot of the result done for a lot less effort. It doesn't really matter how the work gets done. What matters is, am I getting back the work that I want to get back and the result that I need to get it back in, right? That's the key, is am I getting the result back that I'm looking for? And I think so often people focus on, well, I would do it this way. It doesn't matter what way you do it. It's kind of like, when was the last time we told an Uber driver or a taxi driver which way to drive? We don't. We just get in the car, they drive us home, we're okay. We always tell our partner how to drive. Oh, go this way, go that way, stop here, stop there. But we never tell the taxi driver. The reason we don't tell the taxi driver is we've kind of resigned ourselves to the fact they're going to get us there. It's okay. I can do something else along the way. So when you're building a business, it's really not important how the person does the work. What's important is that the result that you get is done for the least amount of money and the least amount of time and the least amount of effort, because that momentum is going to create momentum. The only time that the way you do it actually matters is if you're trying to actually perfect a process and you're trying to get people to follow a process that you know absolutely works. But most of us in the early stages haven't nailed down the process yet.
Yeah,
That's so good.
That's so true.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. Okay, what is one last piece of advice that you'd like to leave our audience with? Entrepreneurs, photo booth owners, those who are trying to scale their business and grow their business.
Well, one is that there's not a single problem that exists that writing a check can't solve. So you do have to focus on revenue, right? The more that you actually focus on revenue generating ideas, on things that will bring in gross margin into your company, you can buy your way out of any problem you have. So if you focus on new sales, more revenue, more gross margin, you can use that money to hire people, hire contractors, hire freelancers to do the work that you don't want to do. So always err on the side of more revenue, more revenue. So often I watch entrepreneurs working hard, trying to perfect something, and they're not generating any revenue. If they would just focus on revenue, they could hire other people to get a bunch of the work done. It would make their lives a lot easier, and then that would grow the company too.
Genius. I
Great.
love that. I'm going to go focus on more revenue right now.
Yeah, seriously.
All right. Well, with that, thank you again so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to even just be able to talk to you in person. Everyone, go download every single book that he has written, Vivid Vision, Second in Command. There's a few others as well, Double. We are going to put them in the comments and the show description notes as well. And just follow, is there anywhere else that they can follow you?
Yeah,
Cameron?
I would definitely take a look at the Invest in Your Leaders course. It's investinyourleaders.com. I just dropped that into the chat for you. And then take a look at my Second in Command podcast if you're interested, or just go to CameronHerold.com, and it's Herold. And that has all of the information, my books, my podcast, the course, my CO Alliance, everything's all there.
Amazing. Definitely go check
Excellent.
all that out. And thank you again for joining us.
Of course. Thanks.